Okay, gentlemen, it's your last chance to back out before becoming infamous on YouTube as not knowing what you're talking about. So, death of a mosquito in 3, 2, 1. And then obviously you have your team sports. So can one group or state or organization, you know, base it being called a sport off of how seriously or how lax they are in their team lifestyle?
I kind of want to highlight something that Advocate said earlier, which I think is a way that a lot of committed airsoft has to go in order for it to actually be more defined as a sport, and that is rules. Currently, every game has some sort of rule base, and it's more of rules of engagement on fair play and making sure that, you know, this hit counts for this and this gun's only allowed to do so much. But there's still a lot of flexibility to what each side is capable of. And I think that some sort of constraint on those, and I don't just mean ammo, because in the end, at some point, you're going to get more ammo. That's an obstacle. I'm talking more about, you know, each team has a very similar weapon system, shooting an extremely similar
So you're talking like
FPS.
IndyCar racing versus NASCAR.
Exactly. And I think that having more of those constraints is going to be more easily definable as there's a winner and there's a loser, because you're playing on an equal playing field. It's not, you know, one team has
Springers
11 players while the other team has 15, because that's unmatched.
Right.
On a football field, there's 11 players on each side of the ball. So you need to have that sense of equality to be able to have a cultivated competition with a defined winner and a loser.
Here's where I feel.
So no one feels slighted that there's no excuses or whining afterwards.
Well,
they had one more person, or they had 2 more saws than we did, or, you know.
Exactly.
The difference being is that in a sport, there is this outside entity that enforces whatever the rules are on the players.
Right.
In airsoft, that does not really exist.
It's true.
We have no NFL, no NBA.
It's all internal.
Yet we still call them referees for some
whether
reason.
whether or not you're out or the other guy's out is entirely up to you or that other guy. Whereas, and I could be talking out my ass here, but I'm pretty sure like NFL players don't, you know, start to do something wrong and they go, oh wait, no, that was a penalty. My bad. I need to go sit out.
No, normally it's the other
No one
team.
carries their own flags, and they'll flag their own play. you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if real sports are like that or not, but
But I think that cheating comes with competition. You know, if you happen to
yes,
get away with
absolutely.
an offsides call or an encroachment call, you're going to take as much as you can get and get the next play off before someone
keep
catches
going until someone catches you.
Yeah.
But in airsoft, that kind of behavior really isn't acceptable.
Right.
If you find people in your local games that you know are, you know, pushing that envelope for the rules, it's like, oh yeah, I'm shooting hot just until someone catches me, or I'm
Right.
gonna blow shots off until someone catches me. Eventually, the social pressure is going to catch up with that guy, and he's not going to be allowed back on the fields again.
Or maybe they shouldn't have he's shooting hot. You know, if it really is a sport, everything should be defined. I mean, football players have to wear certain pads. Football players have to wear certain shoes. Like, there's a certain requirement to step on that field, and if you don't meet that requirement, you're not playing.
Oh, that's the airsoft game I want to play in.
Yeah.
Actually. Only so many mags. You have to shoot this weight ammo. It's like you can't have the players that are like, well, I prefer 2.0s because they travel a little faster. It's like I like 3. You know, I like
uninterested.
I like the 3.2 because
Right.
it hits harder. It's like no, everyone shoots 2.5s. That's it. But my gun shoots. But no, you need to all shoot the same ammo because
Yeah.
you're all playing on the same.
And, I mean, I'm thinking a little bit more broad too about, you know, one team having maybe more vehicles or amenities in that term versus the other team, because a lot of times vehicles create a muster for a lot of these games, and then people have to have a feel-good feeling that, oh, well, you killed that vehicle, even though the other team was just called back or, you know, kind of reeled in. So I think that oftentimes, if there was a more equal set, people would accept losses a lot more.
Because there's always that
willingly.
room for like, well, they had the vehicle, or they had like Steel Town.
Yeah.
Everyone was like,
Steal what? You're talking about an op?
yeah, an op.
Okay.
So, well, at an op, a lot of, some of the younger players were saying, well, this certain team kept on coming after us because they always had the better guns, they always had better weapons, they had, heavy artillery and all this, all these different factors. And for their...
Okay, so you bring up an interesting topic. You talk about fair playing ground equality with teams. If one team is squared away and has the initiative to bring heavy weapons and the other team doesn't, like in the fairness of the sport, it's like you can't bring those on. Why? Because they didn't bring them.
Well, there should be different leagues sometimes because you got a bunch of 30-year-old guys or older that have money. Have money. They have
much
money.
Older.
Yeah, they have money they can put into that stuff compared to the younger crowd who's just getting into it, or they're in their early 20s. They can't afford all the expensive weapons, or they can't afford
So different
all the
provisional
loadouts.
levels.
No.
Yeah, sometimes I think there should be
because there's
Provisional levels,
like
participate at your own
TV
risk.
league, and that's the high school league, varsity junior, that different type of thing.
No,
Big boy
there are 16-year-olds out there with crappy guns that can smoke me like a joint. Whether or not you have the money for it or the kit for it, it's...
Well, we're not talking about, the average rifleman. We're talking about, something above and beyond, heavy weapons or squad support rifles or vehicles.
Yeah, design us. Yeah.
But I also know that a lot of people wouldn't look kindly upon the limitation of leagues. It's like, well, why do I have to play in the kiddie league? I have the mental capacity.
No, dude, you want to play in the kiddie league. Be as high up as you are, but stay in the kiddie league. Keep blowing your qualifier.
Wow.
Like most airsofters.
Cheating at the Special Olympics.
I play at my local field, but I'm the best damn one. Actually, to play off of a little bit of what you started
Piranha
talking
in a
about,
little pond?
Yeah.
What's the fun in that?
That's his new team, Big Fish.
kind of to play off of something that you touched on was smaller or less experienced players complaining about more experienced players with, obviously more kit because they've been in it longer.
I would even base it on, middle line. I think kit and systems are different. Kit,
I agree.
You hold the other one.
But at the same time, if you level those playing fields and those requirements, fewer people are going to go, well, that guy's cheating. Because you're on a level playing field. Honor is still going to be an issue, I agree. And I know that that's probably what you're thinking as well. Mm-hmm. Is he going to cheat more? But if they're both having approximately the same range and they're in the same, weight class, he's probably going to pack about the same punch as the other guy. So it's going to be a little bit more fair, and the tactics are going to be similar. You're not just going to blast through somebody because you have heavy weapons, whereas, you're limited to what you have. So your tactics are going to be different and more on an equal playing ground.
So, you probably have more experience with the your varying degrees of experience at your games because you have the whole spectrum.
Yes.
You got the guys that'll show up and it's their first time out and they just walked out a big five with their, their allowance money and they're really proud of that purchase and, they want to have fun. And then you've got the guys that have been doing it for a while, maybe in a team or whatnot. And then you've got the guys that it's completely unfair. Level, 80 Paladin beating up on all the guys on the free trial. But
Need some misfeeds over there.
And I think, if some of those experienced players actually help out the younger guys, if they, I have problems with the experienced players branching off from their team to help up the newbies, basically. No, I'm sticking with my team. Well, you're going to crush them. This is the first time out. Why don't you? I think it's a healthy thing to play against your team. So you get to know.
I agree, actually.
Yeah.
You learn.
But a lot of times that's a sticking point for a lot of guys. It's no, I put all this work to play with my team. I am absolutely not going to break up. how do we get around that? Incentive or play on,
The notion of it is, okay, so the idea of taking, what you're talking about is kind of like the basic mandate for special forces is taking people and training indigenous personnel. And it's something that comes from, just like so many other things are answered with the individual player or the individual teams, but it's a community building experience, okay? Quite frankly, most of the high level teams that I know love teaching newer players. The problem
they love teaching or love showing off to the newer players.
Okay, there's some of that too. And so
look how awesome I am! I can reload and beep 0.5 whatever.
You're right, and there's that too. But I know plenty of what we would consider top shelf airsoft players locally that love teaching newer or less experienced players. Because what they want to do is they realize that they can't just continue to fight the same zero-level characters all the time. If they want to continue to play, they need a good player base to play against. And it's not, very rarely does that happen kind of organically on its own. It needs to be cultivated and fostered.
Yeah.
The bad news is...
Hopefully before it becomes the brink of the destruction of the community.
The bad news is there's a lot of those newer players that don't respond well to instruction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if we're looking at fault, there is fault on both sides. You know.
No, I completely agree with that, and I think that a lot of that also comes from what you described earlier of the varying of ages. To somebody who, may be older is not going to want to take instruction from a 16-year-old that's very capable. And I mean, I've seen this a lot.
I've got some good 16-year-olds around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's flip the coin. Okay. Define a hobby. They're a show softer.
Yeah.
Like
A show
share-
softer.
It's a show softer.
We have way too many of those.
I know